It was the year 1971. It was precisely 9:30 a.m. in the morning in Delhi. Captain Rajendra Kaul walks to the door of his commanding officer's office. He is dressed in his full commando uniform. He reaches the door and knocks on it. A voice comes from inside, "Please come in." The captain opens the door and enters inside. As soon as he enters inside and sees his commanding officer, he stands in attention and salutes. Then his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut, says, "As you already know, war has erupted between India and Pakistan. You also know that you will be sent on a special mission to Pakistan with 11 other army commandos. You will be briefed about the mission in detail exactly 1 hour from now. That's all for now. You may go." Captain Rajendra Kaul again stands in attention, salutes his commanding officer and leaves the office. After exactly 1 hour, the 11 army commandos are taken to a small room for their briefing. Captain Rajendra Kaul was already present over there. The briefing was to be conducted by Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut. The commandos went and got seated on a few chairs. In the meantime, Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut also made his entry into the room. Now there was a map hanging on the wall which was facing the commandos. Now the map showed the Indian territory of Gujarat on one side of the border and the Pakistani soil on the other side. Now to the west of Gujarat lies the Arabian Sea. Finally, Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut started his briefing. He said, "As you all know, you have been called over here for a special briefing. You also know that this briefing is about your mission to Pakistan. Now let me start with the details pertaining to your mission. As you know, you will be operating behind enemy lines. So, you will be wearing Pakistani uniforms instead of your army commando uniforms." Now Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut had his baton in his hand. Then with the baton he pointed to one area on the map. It was a place in Gujarat which was close to the border with Pakistan. Then he said, 4 days back, in this place a PAF, Pakistani Air Force, plane had crash-landed due to some technical problems. Now as soon as it had crash-landed, our soldiers in that area took the pilot and the other Pakistani soldiers inside as POWs. Now this plane was repaired at our Air Force base in Gujarat 2 days back. And it is fit to fly now. Now let's come to the main part of the mission. He again held his baton in his hand and pointed it to one place on the map. Then he said, "This place, as you see, is on the other side of the border. That is on the Pakistani side. Now in this area, there is a bridge which is of much importance to Pakistan at least till tomorrow morning. The reason is that according to information received from our military intelligence, a whole contingent of Pakistani tanks will be crossing the bridge early tomorrow morning. Now these tanks are on their way to the border to assist their troops over there. Now if these tanks reach the border, then it will give the Pakistani troops an added advantage over us, and we are sure to lose the battle over there. Also, many of our soldiers will die. Now this bridge is the only way the tanks can reach the border conveniently and on time. Now your mission is to destroy this bridge. Now let me tell you how it has to be done. Tonight, at exactly 10:30 p.m., you will be taken to the Air Force Base in Delhi. From there you will be flying to Gujarat. You will land at the Air Force Base in Gujarat. I will be flying with you. Once you land there, you will be given your Pakistani uniforms, your weapons, and also the explosives you need to destroy the bridge, among the other things that you will be carrying. Now one of you will have to carry the radio set. This is to keep in constant touch with me and inform me of your progress. I will be in Gujarat until your mission is completed. Now at 3:30 a.m. you will board the PAF plane that is now fit to fly. You will be accompanied by our Indian pilot as well as the Pakistani pilot. Now the Pakistani pilot is flying with you because he has to say the code to the control tower after entering into Pakistani airspace. Then you will take off from the base with the Indian pilot flying the plane. The Pakistani pilot will be tied to a seat until the plane enters into Pakistani airspace. Once the plane enters into Pakistani airspace, the Pakistani pilot will be unbound and forced to tell the code to the control tower, after which he will again be tied to his seat. Then when the plane is near to the area where the bridge is, you will make your parachute drops. Then once you land on Pakistani soil, you have to be quick and decisive in your actions. You have to open your map which will be given to you and study it. It will give you all the necessary details about how to reach the bridge. After which you will be on your own. But as I mentioned earlier, you have to keep in touch with me always with your radio set. So now this is the end of your briefing. And I wish you the very best of luck. Now you will have some combat exercises for about 2 hours. Then some rest, and finally we leave at 10:30 p.m. for the Delhi Air Force Base. Soon their combat exercises began. Now all the commandos were tall and well-built men. They practiced all the forms of combat that they had been trained for. This lasted for around 2 hours. Then they rested for some time. As they were lying down, they thought about the mission that lay ahead of them. They also thought about the families and children they had left behind. Soon it was night. The men had their dinner, and at 10:30 p.m., they boarded a military transport vehicle and were on their way to the Delhi Air Force Base. Soon they reached the base. Within another 15 minutes, they boarded the IAF plane that was to fly them to the Gujarat Air Force Base. Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut was with them. Soon the aircraft took off. It traveled for about 2 hours and finally landed at the Gujarat Air Force Base. It was 1 a.m. by now. The soldiers climbed down from the plane and soon preparations started for the beginning of their mission. Firstly, they changed over from their Indian Army Commando uniforms to Pakistani uniforms. Then each one was handed over a Sten gun, a commando knife, a few grenades and a water bottle. Captain Rajendra Kaul carried with him a silencer as well. The captain was also handed over a map which showed the area around the bridge. The soldiers were also given the explosives necessary to blow up the bridge. Captain Rajendra Kaul also carried with him a night vision binocular. Finally, they were given their parachutes. After some time, when all preparations were over, the captain shook hands with his commanding officer Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut, saluted him and finally with his squad boarded the plane. The Pakistani pilot was also taken inside. Once inside, he was tied to a seat with some ropes. Soon the Indian pilot entered the plane. It was 3:30 a.m. by now. The PAF plane took off from the airbase and was soon traveling in the night sky. When it was nearing 4 a.m., the Indian pilot called up the captain and said, "WE have crossed the international border. WE will soon be asked to tell the code from a nearby control tower." The captain knew what this meant and immediately went into action. He signaled to one of his men and then both of them came near to the Pakistani pilot. The captain removed his silencer from its holster and pressed it hard against the pilot's temple. If they came to know for sure that the PAF plane was on its way to India, they would have alerted a PAF base nearby and sent fighter planes to bring down the PAF plane. Now the commandos were about to land on Pakistani territory. The night sky was lit by a bright full moon. The first to land was Captain Rajendra Kaul. As soon as he landed, he detached his parachute from its straps and made a quick 360-degree turn with his Sten gun. When he was satisfied that there were no Pakistani soldiers nearby, he straightened up and waited for the rest of his men to report. Within another 5 minutes, the remaining commandos reported to the captain, except one. The captain looked at his men and found that one was missing. It was Harvinder Singh. He asked his men whether they had seen him anywhere. They all nodded their heads and said, "No." Then Captain Rajendra Kaul said, "All right, let's go. We must find him." Immediately the group dispersed. Each man on his own way. They travelled quite a distance, but couldn't find Harvinder Singh. Then one of the soldiers reached a tall tree. And when he looked up, he saw Harvinder Singh hanging on it. He immediately called the captain. Captain Rajendra Kaul rushed to the place. There he found a commando standing beside a tall tree pointing upwards towards one of its branches. When the captain looked at where the finger was pointed to, he saw Harvinder Singh hanging upside down from the branch. When the captain looked further upwards, he saw that Harvinder Singh's parachute had brushed on almost every branch of the tree. He had obviously landed on top of the tree and scraped downwards to the bottom of the tree. He was bleeding profusely and hanging motionless on the tree. Captain Rajendra Kaul told the nearby commando to bring him down. The commando took out his knife and cut through the branches and finally took hold of Harvinder Singh and lowered him down from the tree. Then he placed him gently on the ground. After this the commando raised the wrist of Harvinder Singh and checked his pulse. He was in total dismay as he checked the pulse. After checking Harvinder Singh's pulse, he stood up and said to the captain, "I'm sorry, sir, he's dead." The captain was saddened at the loss of such a fine soldier. He stood there for some time considering what the next step should be. Then he said to men, "We have to find a place to bury him. I am sure we will find some cave or enclosure nearby." Soon the men set out to find a place to bury Harvinder Singh, while Captain Rajendra Kaul and another commando stood beside Harvinder Singh's body. After about some time, the commandos returned back and one of them said to their captain, "We have found a cave. It is just nearby." Then the captain told them, "Now we have to carry Harvinder Singh's body and bury him there." Then he assigned 2 men to carry Harvinder Singh's body, and they all set out for the cave. Soon they reached the cave. It was a big cave and also big enough to bury Harvinder Singh. The 2 commandos carrying Harvinder Singh gently placed him in the cave. Then they looked around to find a boulder with which they could seal the cave. A few yards away from the cave they saw a boulder which could be rolled towards it and seal it. After which 3 commandos went to the boulder and started to roll it with all their might towards the cave. Soon the boulder was moved towards the entrance of the cave and the 3 commandos sealed the cave with the boulder. And in this way Harvinder Singh was buried. The captain then called out to Jaspreet Singh, who was carrying the radio set, and immediately connected the frequency to get Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut on the line. Meanwhile in Gujarat, the colonel was patiently waiting for a call sign from Captain Rajendra Kaul. He was sitting in a small room, with some other military officials. His radio set was just beside him on a table. Then suddenly the transmission came through. It said, "Alpha to Delta, Alpha to Delta. Come in Alpha to Delta." Immediately Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut picked up the receiver of his radio set and replied, "Delta to Alpha, Delta to Alpha. Come in Delta to Alpha. Over." Captain Rajendra Kaul replied, "Alpha to Delta. Alpha to Delta. Sir, we have lost Harvinder Singh. He died during his parachute jump. Over." Then Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut asked, "Are the rest of your men safe? Over." The captain replied, "Yes, sir. Over." Then Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut said, "Keep me informed of your position. Over and out." After the conversation was over, the captain returned the radio set to Jaspreet Singh. Then, according to his next plan of action, he removed his backpack and produced a map from it. The map had a plastic coating on it. He spread it on the ground and then produced a pencil torch from his backpack. He switched on the pencil torch and was about to read the map when suddenly, it grew dark. He looked up at the sky and saw that the moon was covered with a thick blanket of dark clouds. The captain immediately understood that it was going to rain. His thoughts were proven right when suddenly a trickle of water fell on his right arm. He quickly folded the map and put it back in his backpack along with the pencil torch. By this time, it began to rain heavily. Within 5 minutes, they were drenched to the skin with water. In another 10 minutes, the rain subsided. The captain assumed that these were off-season rains, because he knew that during this season, rain was not expected. Anyhow, he knew that the rains had stopped for now. So, he removed the map and pencil torch from his backpack once again. Then he called together his men and switched on the pencil torch. Then pointing the pencil torch at the map he said, "This is the road that extends from here to the place where the radio transceiver is. It is about 500 meters from here. And about 300 meters from here is the guardhouse. That is to the left of this road. And to the right of this road is a wooden fence. And beyond that is a gorge. Now the bridge that is our primary target is just beside the place where the radio transceiver is. Now to the left of the place where the radio transceiver is, there is a road which reaches the beach. Now after destroying the bridge, we have to rush to the beach, from where we will be evacuated by an Indian helicopter. This is all the information we need right now. Now we have to destroy the guardhouse first. Only then can we get near to the bridge. I don't think there will be more than 8 to 10 guards over there. The fact being that they can't be expecting us or anyone else in this dead night." Then the captain said to his men in a low voice, "Let's go." They started advancing towards the guardhouse as silently as possible. But they had only started off when they heard some dogs barking. The captain took a while to comprehend what had happened. And then he exclaimed, "Oh my gosh! Those are army dogs. And they have sensed our presence over here." Then one of the commandos asked the captain, "What do we do now?" The captain simply replied, "We are into action now." Then all of them broke into a run with their Sten guns in their hands. But by the time they had covered only 30 meters, they heard the sounds of 2 vehicles approaching them. Hearing this, the captain waved to his soldiers to take cover. All of them immediately took cover and hid waiting in ambush. Soon they could clearly see the vehicles. There were 4 men in the first vehicle and 3 in the other. Also, the vehicles were mounted with machine guns. When the vehicles were close enough, the captain gave an order to his men to open fire. All of a sudden, his men opened fire at the vehicles randomly. The soldiers in the first vehicle fell into an instant death. At the same time, the 3 soldiers from the second vehicle opened fire with their machine guns. But before any damage could be done, the Indian soldiers fired at them and killed them all. Then the 12 army commandos got into the vehicles and drove towards the guardhouse. But as they were on their way, suddenly a Pakistani soldier came in front of them. He was carrying a bazooka with him, on his shoulder. He immediately fired an RPG, rocket-propelled grenade, at the frontmost vehicle. The RPG hit the vehicle and it exploded. The vehicle turned to one side and skidded on the road towards the wooden fence. When it hit the fence gave way and the vehicle fell into the gorge. 5 men were lost in this way. In the meantime, a commando who was handling the machine gun of the second vehicle fired at the Pakistani soldier and killed him. Then the remaining 7 soldiers hurried towards the guardhouse. But when they got there, they found no one over there. The captain's presumption was right. He knew there wouldn't be more than 8 or 10 guards over there. Now the Pakistani tank regiment led by Major Ahmed Khan was soon approaching the bridge. They were about 10 kilometers from the bridge. Now Major Ahmed Khan was a very patriotic soldier. He had decided to reach the border at any cost, even if it would mean to lose his life. He had heard the explosions and sounds of gunfire. He also knew that there was a threat to the bridge. Nevertheless, he decided to cross the bridge. Meanwhile, at the place where the radio transceiver was, there were 2 soldiers. They heard the explosions and soon understood that they were outnumbered. The next moment they fled from there. The captain then told the soldier driving the vehicle to drive towards the place where the radio transceiver was. When they reached there, they saw that it was abandoned. The captain took hold of his Sten gun and with the butt of it smashed the radio transceiver. After this, they immediately set to work. They removed the explosives from their backpacks. 3 men were assigned to fit the explosives at 3 different places. 1 at the other end of the bridge, 1 in the middle and 1 at the side near to them. The 3 commandos set to work. They climbed down the bridge at the 3 different locations and started fitting the explosives. Meanwhile, the captain sent 2 of his men to the other end of the bridge to keep a watch for the Pakistanis. Now the Pakistani tank regiment was very close to the bridge and the Indian soldiers could hear the drone of the tanks. The 2 Indian soldiers who were at the other end of the bridge immediately took their positions. They laid down on the ground spread-eagled and waited for the Pakistanis to come. Meanwhile, the 3 soldiers assigned to fit the explosives on the bridge were busy with their work. But soon the tank regiment were so close that the 2 Indian soldiers were forced to open fire. Now along with the tanks there were numerous Pakistani soldiers. One after another, many Pakistani soldiers died. But now the Pakistanis also started to fire at the Indian soldiers. One of the Indian soldiers got hit by a bullet and died instantly. The other kept firing at the Pakistanis. By this time, the 3 Indian soldiers who had been fitting the explosives finished their work. They immediately climbed up the bridge and ran towards their captain. Now the soldier who was engaged in gunfire with the Pakistanis got hit with bullets and died. Meanwhile, the rest of the commandos got into their vehicle and waited for the bridge to blow up. By now the first tank had already started to cross the bridge. It was followed by another tank. But just as the first tank was about to reach the end of the bridge, the explosive beneath it detonated. And a second later, the other 2 explosives also detonated. And the entire bridge blew up. The 2 tanks carrying Major Ahmed Khan and his officers fell into the gorge. Their mission accomplished, the remaining 5 commandos hurried to the beach. Within half an hour they reached the beach. Then the captain told Jaspreet Singh to bring in the radio set. Then the frequency was connected to get Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut on the line. In Gujarat, Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut immediately got the call sign. It said, Alpha to Delta. Alpha to Delta. Come in Alpha to Delta. Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut immediately picked up the receiver of his radio set and replied, Delta to Alpha, Delta to Alpha. Come in Delta to Alpha. Over. Captain Rajendra Kaul replied, Alpha to Delta. Alpha to Delta. Mission accomplished. 7 men lost. Need immediate evacuation from prearranged area. Over. Lieutenant Colonel Raj Singh Raut replied, Delta to Alpha, Delta to Alpha. An army helicopter will evacuate you in 30 minutes. Over and out. The 5 men waited anxiously for an entire half an hour for the helicopter to come. The captain kept watching at his watch regularly. 30 minutes later, to their relief, they could hear the drone of the helicopter. By now it was nearing dawn, and they could clearly see the helicopter in the sky. The pilot could also see the 5 soldiers on the beach. Within a minute he landed the helicopter on the beach. The 5 commandos quickly climbed up the helicopter and the helicopter took off. Now the Pakistani radars had detected the Indian helicopter in their airspace. And so, they sent 3 Starfighter fighter planes to destroy it. Now the IAF had anticipated this. So, they had sent 3 MiG-21s just behind the helicopter. Now the helicopter had gained height. Soon the MiG-21s were near the helicopter. And a while later the starfighters also arrived. Then a dogfight broke out between the starfighters and the MiG-21s. Now one MiG-21 was at the tail of a starfighter. It began to fire its cannons at it and soon the starfighter caught fire and fell down. Meanwhile another MiG-21 was pursuing a starfighter. It started firing its cannons at it. After a while it managed to bring the starfighter down. In another place a MiG-21 and a starfighter were moving towards a head-on collision. They were constantly firing their cannons at each other. Both the planes got hit with cannon fire and they fell from the sky. The aerial dogfight ended with this. And the 2 MiG-21s took their positions at the right and left of the helicopter. Soon they were on their way to their own country, India. A small military operation has just been completed, but the war is yet to be won.